Hey, everybody. Every once in a while, we decide to interview members of the community, the Inner Circle community, who have been able to grow their business, have a lot of success. And this is for a few reasons. We want to basically highlight the journey that others have been on, what's made them successful. And so it also inspires you watching to let you know that you can achieve it as well. And I love seeing this journey. This is the fulfillment I get. This is why I decided to teach, why we decided to create seller systems in the Inner Circle, was to show, to help others become successful. And so this is so rewarding for me to be able to interview members. And today I've got Dmytro with me today, and he's been a member for a few years now, and been able to really build a very successful business, but not just Amazon business, but he's also got an agency. And we're going to hear a little bit about his story today, and where he started, where he's from. And if his story doesn't inspire you based on the circumstances he's in, and you're sitting in America right now, or you're sitting somewhere where you've got the comfort of air conditioning and you've got the comfort of basically the ability to go get a job, a stable economy, no war like in your backyard, then if he can do it in his circumstances with everything he's faced in his life, there's no excuse for you. So thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, hey Brandon, thanks so much. It's an honor to be here again. So really excited.
No, I think that your story inspires me even to know that there is no reason that we can't take control of our lives. I've been studying a ton of like stoicism and really understanding to how to control your emotions, how to control what you can control, how to live a more peaceful life, but also one with purpose, right? And so your story really inspired me, because you're someone who said, I'm not going to just be average. I'm not going to just accept my circumstances. And you knew that there was more for you out there if you could figure it out. And so you just didn't stop until you did. And it led you to finding us and basically building up a very successful very successful businesses. So let's hear a little bit about where you started. I know maybe your background, high school, and then coming up in in your country where you're at. Tell people where you're born, the circumstances of that, and then you moved at one point to family. So let me hear you in your own words explain a little bit about your timeline.
Yeah. So I'm from Ukraine, from Eastern Ukraine to be specific. And, I'm from a pretty average family. Like I never had anyone doing business or something like that. So, for me to kind of be at this position, I want to say like it was everything was calculated moves, but I think honestly there was a lot of luck, a lot of desire at the same time. Like I wanted to, strive for more, but kind of where I grew up, like I didn't really have this roadmap. At some point, I was fortunate to move to Canada after school, because like we had the first conflict in Ukraine back in 2014. So I had some family in Canada, and I moved there. I lived there for a few years, and I basically studied English and worked all sorts of jobs, like mostly construction. Worked in a sign shop, making like signs, kind of, like McDonald's, that sort of stuff. And at about age of 20, I really like started thinking, that's not the life I want. Like, I want to do some business, I want to be independent. So I started basically researching for like some gigs, and I think like my first ever experience was kind of flopping the phones. So like in Ukraine, like an iPhone would cost maybe like 30-40% more than in Canada and States. So I would kind of buy them in Canada and send them back home to get resold, but couldn't really scale it because there was some like tax limit involved. So yeah, just learned a little bit of marketing. And at that time, when I was still in Canada, when I was maybe like 21 or 22, I just accidentally, again, like researching different online business models, I found out about Amazon. And it was just like an interview of another Ukrainian guy who was explaining like the private label model. And I think it was back in 2017, like, yeah, like six years ago now. Pretty crazy. So that got me really excited. And I tried to research whatever I could online at that time, and it wasn't much. Like today, there's just so much more knowledge on Amazon, like, like private groups, just free stuff on YouTube, like on any part of Amazon. So yeah, I learned about it, tried to gather as much info as I could about like opening an account, about sourcing products from Alibaba.
So before
And
you get
that's
into
what,
the Amazon side, I want to
yeah,
talk a little bit about the conflict that you were in. Now, is that called the Donbass region or
yeah.
yeah? And so that was basically taken back over by Russia.
Yeah, exactly like where my city was. So kind of half was still under Ukraine, and yeah, half was taken by Russia. And unfortunately, my
Yeah.
city fell into that part.
So if you can imagine like where you're sitting right now, an invading force coming in and saying we're going to take over this city. You're no longer that government, you're this government. And if you resist, you're killed or you have to leave, right? And
Yeah.
so I think every single day, a lot of us take for granted what we have. And I think a lot of what I want to talk to you, convey today is like, um, I hear it a lot. I hear people saying, no, I've got bills to pay. I got things to do. And a lot of these circumstances are put upon ourselves. We feel like we have to stay in the safe decision or safe position here. And so you have the safe job, you have the safe girlfriend, you have you go and get materialistic things that tie you to debt that you don't need. And you just keep making all these decisions compound into you being stuck. And you need more, you want more. And you didn't have any of that. You were just basically, you woke up one day and you were being attacked. You had your city under siege. You had war at your doorstep, and you were like, okay, well, I guess I want to leave. And fortunately enough, like you said, you had a little luck involved, or just circumstance. You had family in Canada. Now, on the lighter side, I look at you and I don't see a construction worker, right? I don't see you swinging a 40-pound, hammer. But I can tell you that there's a guy on TikTok and YouTube who's got a really big, sneaky build. He's probably the strongest guy for his size in the planet. And he does all these really funny videos. Do you know who I'm talking about? He dresses up like he's works in the gym as like a janitor. And you've got these
Oh yeah.
guys you got these
Yeah.
guys that are 300 pounds that are struggling to lift these weights. And he goes, and he's mopping, and he's like, oh, and he's like, 1 second. And he moves it out of the way with like very easily for them, and then mops and then goes and puts it back. And the guys are like, what in the world? This little guy just lifted this big weight. So I'm not going to underestimate you. You could have a sneaky build, they call it. And you're probably much stronger than I think. But swinging a hammer probably wasn't what you wanted to do. You wanted to use your brain. You wanted to create leverage, and so you started flipping the iPhones and different technology, realizing that there was more out there besides just being in a construction job. And that kind of led you on this journey of seeking knowledge and trying to solve it, which is amazing because a lot of people they'll get just a little bit of knowledge. They think they know enough and then they go and fail, right? And so, not to say you haven't failed. All of us have failed. All of the successful sellers, anyone selling for years with many products, we've all had our failures. We all learn from our failures. The difference is we just don't give up. And you obviously haven't given up from your failures. So let's back up. What were some of the things that you did wrong in the beginning?
Yeah, so I didn't, I guess, put so much effort into learning about like the product launch. So basically, I did some research, basic research with the software, and I picked a product that I thought at that moment was going to be successful. And I can even tell what it was. It was like a artificial flower under like a glass dome. I think they sell those at malls, so it was like kind of trendy at that moment. I think like right before fidget spinners. So yeah, I just sourced it from Alibaba, and right away I didn't think about it, but like there was a glass dome, so some some product ended up like being broken, or when it was being shipped, or
Oh
when it
boy.
got to the customers. Yeah, but nevertheless, it was selling. It started getting some momentum, but I didn't have like all that knowledge about SEO, about photography. That's where I started learning more about PPC, just how to really move the product quickly. But yeah, over a course of a year, it was kind of like stagnating because there were more and more other sellers basically selling the same product. And then they came up with like a more fancier version with like LED lights in the glass dome. And
So this is a perfect conversation to have, because I think that the progression of a product on Amazon and the progression of the business in general on Amazon has taken this exact path, right? So understanding fulfillment, major thing. There's many learning curves we have to learn when selling on Amazon, and marketing and PPC, pay-per-click, and how it relates to pushing keywords and SEO and ranking for organic keywords. And, all of these things are extremely complicated. And, once you learn it, I mean, it's a steep learning curve, but once you learn it, it all clicks and makes sense. And then you can really execute on it on a high level. But then you have to combine the content. And so if we take all of that complexity away, it always boils down to two things: traffic and conversion, right? So traffic is how you get the eyeballs on your listing. Conversions are the people that click and buy it, right? So how do you get the eyeballs? You rank it organically, you get the organic eyeballs, or you pay for those eyeballs with pay-per-click. And how do you get the clicks and the sales? Great content, great value, great looking images. Now, the value piece is what you're talking about. You're talking about people who come into a market and they say, okay, all these people with these artificial flavors, with artificial flowers, with this glass dome, they're selling really, really well. You know what? I think if I add LED lights, it'll look much prettier. And a string of LED lights costs 70 cents. I'll throw it in there. I'll let them decorate it. I'm sure it'll look a lot prettier. We'll take better images, and I won't charge anymore either. I'll charge maybe an extra, $2 to cover the cost of the LED lights. I'll even make more profit because they cost less than $2. They're not going to increase the size of the packaging at all because they ship in that glass dome, and then I'll beat them, right? And so now you got this one-upsmanship on Amazon where everyone's just adding more value, improving the images, and where you were a year ago, you're dying. Your listing is dead. You're not getting the same clicks. You're not getting the same performance. You're not getting the same sales. And so this exact story is super important for all Amazon sellers to know, whether you're just starting, deciding to sell soon, or you're already selling. You got to go back and you got to keep refreshing your existing listings. You've got to improve them. You've got to add value. You've got to iterate, and you've got to stay ahead of where the competition is. And so the only way to do that now is to really, really be very good at content, and also keep a very good eye on the niche. So that's why within datadive, we've created the niche tracker. We've got the niche tracker so that you can constantly add these new sellers to it, so you can see who's in the market, who's in my niche. And you can understand the size of it. You can understand if it's trending up or down or up, and whether like your sales are down because the whole market, the demand of the market's falling, or they're down because you got 6 new sellers who've come in and added LED lights, right? And their prices have dropped. They're running lower pricing. They've got new designs out that people like better than yours. So you've really got to keep an eye on this market share, the market, and understand your market share and your demand. But you face that head on, like we all have. We have hundreds of products. We've been through this hundreds of times, right? You've got dozens and dozens of products, and you've faced this a bunch of times. And this first product was a prime example of what happened. You've got issues with shipping and logistics. You've got issues with packaging. You've got issues with competitors coming in, the market maturing, you not maturing with the market, and probably moving on from the product now, but into another market that you've had a lot of success in, and now you're better. Every single time you get better, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, and like looking at this from this point where I am, like back at that time, I was like, in my early 20s, that was like my one of the first business experiences. And I thought like the world was over, like.
Right. Yeah. You're like, oh my God, my product that makes me all my money is gone. And that's another valuable lesson. There's so many things here. This is why this conversation is so good, and I love it. Like, that's another really, really important question here, or our point here, is that you can't rely on one product in this business. If you get complacent, if you get comfortable, that product has a life cycle. There will always be competitors. It is the nature of business that if people see someone making money and a good margin, competitors are going to come after you. And so you were like, man, my business is dead. I'm done. What am I going to do now? Right. And so how did you face that? What did you decide to do? You didn't give up. You didn't go hide in a room. You said, well, I got to find something else.
Yeah. So when I still had the product selling, I decided to move back to Ukraine because, it was generating some revenue for me. And I just decided it was, way more comfortable living with like USD income in Ukraine than in Canada, even just of one product. But it was stagnating when I moved there. So I was just basically thinking what to do next, whether like launch another product. And as I mentioned earlier, I kind
What
of
year
started.
is this?
It was 2018, like early 2018.
And you moved back to Western Ukraine where it's more stable.
Yeah, more like central to the capital.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started learning more about PPC. And in Ukraine, we had a pretty large Amazon community. There were a lot of sellers, quite a few agencies. So I kind of started, trying to network. And since I, again, was learning PPC, I was just kind of doing some odd jobs for some agencies in PPC, and they would kind of share some knowledge with me. I would manage some accounts. And yeah, I got excited more with PPC and kind of put the product launching kind of on the second place. And that's where I met my business partner, Juan. Because I was part of like Facebook groups and all, and kind of trying to search for other people to manage their PPC, just, network, whatever. So yeah, I met him on Facebook, and he had one product at that time, So I kind of just started helping him out with PPC at first. It wasn't much. And over the course of a year or so, he launched the second product. And then kind of, we were talking, we were working, and kind of went into friendship partnership. And we were both like interested in Amazon and growing. So we just partnered and started, expanding the product line. And that's really where it took off from about 2019, 2020, when the COVID hit. That's kind of where we really cooperated more as a partnership and started launching other products. And over the course of like next year, we were really like trying to find ways, how to grow, how to improve the business. That's before we joined Solar Systems. And it wasn't easy, because we would have some growth, then kind of fall back, and we didn't really know why. Like, we didn't have clear systems, clear processes. At some point we realized we need better content, because we just had like basic photo shoot from the supplier, which is some like Photoshop. That's when we did our first photo shoot around 2020, which gave us a little boost, but we didn't know, again, it was before Seller Systems. So one of your main things is, how you emphasize on the importance of content. And we kind of, tried to bootstrap it, make it as cheap as possible, but at the same time, do something good with the photo shoot. And it gave us a little boost. Just, having the studio photos is still way better than from just supplier photos, even if it's not like the greatest quality. And we couldn't even tell back then, like, really if it was that good or bad. So we just kept working on the brand, and we were growing, but slowly. And going into, like, I think it was 2021 or 2022, when I discovered your YouTube channel. And I told Tumot, like, this guy definitely knows something. And I was like following a lot of people at that time on YouTube, like for PPC, for product optimization. And you were just one of the people who really like stood out to me. So I suggested like we enroll into Seller Systems. And that's what we did. And like after taking the program and started implementing things from your program and redoing the content again 2 times, and that's when, like, in the last year or year and a half, we had like exponential growth. So like we've been doing this brand maybe for about 4 years now, since like 2019. But like really last year and a half, like the growth was like exponential, like if you draw on a whiteboard, it's like this and then
No, that's awesome, man. And I'm sure that what you guys have implemented really speaks and is the main driver behind it. So it's the keywords and it's like setting up the relevancy piece, but then really executing at a very high level on the content side. And so once you started to really solve all of that, when did you open up the agency, or when did you really start to grow the agency?
So I was like still kind of consulting on the side, just again from Facebook groups, from word of mouth. and never really positioned it as an agency because it was pretty much me by myself. But then again, about a year and a half ago, when we had like first major success with the brand, and we started having this feel that, you know, we know something finally, like it's not just guessing, you know, like something that we do is working and it's
Yeah.
bringing results. So that's when we kind of decided to emerge as an agency. And we had like our first employees, well, basically VAs. And I mean, at that point, like even at our point right now, you could totally do it like two of us, but just kind of to outsource some tasks that might be not like the most pleasant for us. You just get VA to do it, and then you teach him the processes, and then they help to serve the brands we manage. And like with me, I still my main thing is Amazon advertising, and like the amount of time I spend just learning about it, because like every day, almost every single day, I dedicate like at least 2 to 4 hours to basically like learning about Amazon PPC. And I think it wouldn't really make sense to do all of this just like for one brand. So that's why I think it's logical whether like you start growing other brands, like your own brand, or like you start consulting or serving other brands. And I just, yeah, found that a lot of people are struggling with it. And I kind of figured out the formula. I mean, first of all, the product has to be good by itself, but then it's pretty much all like PPC science and finding the balance between scaling, profits, optimizations. And yeah, we started helping other brands, driving results to them. And I mean, we're taking it easy because we have like a lot of brands coming in, but we're not taking anyone because they might be like smaller sellers. So we just don't take them because they might not be willing to invest again into content, into scaling with PPC. And we are still learning a lot by ourselves because me and Maud, we're like both 26, 27. So he's actually doing MBA in Canada right now. And like besides our Amazon brand, Amazon agency, learning PPC, learning optimization, we also like still have a lot of learning to do about the business, the whole by itself, you know?
Right.
So yeah, um, that's kind of it, I think.
So I think that a lot of people underestimate the amount of complexity, or they understand that PPC can be very complex. And but the fact that you dedicated hours per day to becoming great at it, there is that old saying around 10,000 hours to become an expert at anything. And so
Yeah.
if you spend 2 hours a day, you're still looking at 5,000 days. So you got to spend more than a couple hours a day to really, really, really become an
Yeah.
expert at something. And um, I think that you're a few years in, you've been studying pretty relentlessly, and you've gotten to a point now where you understand what levers to pull. And again, it goes back to that traffic and conversions. You made the point that, the listing still has to be good, because if you drive people to a listing that doesn't convert because it's not very good, it doesn't matter how many eyeballs you get on it if no one buys it. And so you still need that lever and that cross section of good content, good value, and traffic. And so the fact that you know the complete picture based on our methodology and what we teach and how we teach it, and then you're able to execute that for your own brands, and then you help people. It's awesome, man. I think that your story is one of the most inspirational. And we've got over 1,000 members in the inner circle. We've got over 400 doing over $1 million a year. This community is jam packed with amazing stories and success stories. But your story with where you grew up, the fact that that you faced those hardships and you knew it wasn't enough for you as an entrepreneur, and you were able to overcome quite a bit. to be where you're at today, running multiple 7-figure businesses, is so powerful, so amazing. So thank you for sharing your story with us. I want to shift it to future goals. So we've kind of walked through where you're at. You've got your agency, you got your brands. Are you launching any new brands? Because right now you're mostly in grocery. Are you looking at other categories? Are you expanding your food lines? Are you going to do additional lines there? And what are your goals with the agency? What are your goals with the brands over the next 5 years?
Yeah, thanks. We're actually expanding our product line as we speak. So we're in the like baking niche. So there is really a lot of things we can do. And we're launching new products this Q4, because what we have so far, it's actually pretty much same product, but just a lot of variations of it. But like each standalone variation is like in demand. So kind of rather than launching other products, we just focused on covering all those variations that were in demand. And now we're starting to expand into a little bit different products, so launching them. And there is a lot of room to grow in this niche with different products. So that's what we're going to be focused on for the next year or two, just really trying to expand in this our food baking niche. Possibly launch another brand. I mean, it would take a lot of focus, to do another brand. And launch Shopify. Like I told in the beginning, we have the store ready, but just not the traffic yet. So kind of we want to secure ourselves a little bit by
that's another whole learning curve is Shopify. So a lot of people don't understand. They're like, oh, you have a brand, you can sell it everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Again, traffic and conversions. Shopify, you can make a web page. How do you get eyeballs on the web page? How do you get traffic? How do you get people to walk past your web page and decide whether they're going to buy it? And that's driving your own traffic, right? So you got influencers, you've got you can use live shopping that drives to it. You can use TikTok, you can use viral content, YouTube Shorts, YouTube, and then steer to your own web page. You can run social media ads, you can run Google ads. So you've got all these different now learning curves for all these different sources of traffic. You have to figure out how to become great at all of those things and figure out which lever is going to be the best for you to pull for that traffic source. And then when they get to your site, they still have to convert. So then you need to understand what is great content and what does a great Shopify site look like. Now we had Steve Chu come in and teach a class for us because I consider him one of the leading experts on Shopify. He's got his own Shopify store, and some of the craziest insights he was giving us about, we found that if you put this button here instead of here, it increased conversions by 6%, right? Like little things like that he figured out because of having a store for many years, driving tons of traffic, A/B testing a ton of things that, you got to skip those learning curves sometimes. So that we had him come in and teach that lesson. Because I don't know Shopify that well. I rely on the built-in traffic on Amazon. But not only that, my niche in particular, Shopify doesn't work for every niche, because then you have to worry about also the unit economics. How much are you spending to get people there to your site? So you have a cost of acquisition. So they call it a CAC, customer acquisition cost. You spend $10 because let's say you spend $2 a click. Every five people come in and actually buy. You have a 20% conversion rate. You spent $10. If I'm selling a $20 toy and I spent $10 to get them there, I'm not making money, right? So you need a large average order size. They call it an AOV, average order value. So average cart checkout, right? And then that needs to be enough. So if you spend $50, your margin's 25%. Like if they buy $50 and you've got let's make the math easy, 30% margin, that's $15 profit. and you spent 10 to get it there. Now you're making $5. Is that worth it? Right? You're only making $5, and that's only if they spend at least $50. If they spend 30, you lost money. Right? So, you got all these things to worry about, all these new learning curves, all these things you got to do. You've got all these, if you're doing the influencer route, you got to deal with the influencers. If you're doing the shoot, like the TikTok route or the live selling route, you got to hire someone in-house that's live all day. If you're doing the social media ads, you need to become an expert at PPC, not on Amazon. That's another 2 to 4 hours a day for the next year that you got to spend learning how to do that at a very high level, right? So I think I in my niche in particular with toys, I'm not going to become an expert there, but I've got my travel brand. I'm considering it because it's a much bigger price point with decent margins. But the fact that you're tackling that head on, I wish you the best of luck. We'll support you any way we can, but that's a big undertaking. And so what I usually find is, okay, we grow this niche as much as we can on Amazon. Let's look for other channels with other similar traffic and conversions. And so Walmart's becoming that for us. Have you looked at Walmart? Have you looked at Temu? Have you looked at Shein? Have you looked at some of these other channels where maybe they're buying your stuff and marketing it for you like Temu does or Shein does? Or have you looked at Walmart, which is their PPC is less sophisticated than Amazon. It's much easier to understand if you know Amazon at a high level. And basically you ship the goods in and they fulfill it similar to FBA. What are you doing there?
Yeah, so we're trying to get into Walmart. We got rejected first time when we applied. So
all right, I'm going to help you there. So like I said, I think we talked about that briefly.
Yeah.
Send me your email. I'll send you an intro to my rep. He's in toys, but it doesn't matter. He'll connect you with as a favor to me because we're giving him a lot of business and he likes us. So he'll connect as a favor to me, probably to the guy that's in charge of grocery.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so we hope to get on Walmart. I mean, yeah, it can maybe be like 20% extra revenue or whatever at best. But yeah, with Shopify, that's exactly what you said. Once we did it, we realized probably the model is not going to be as profitable as on Amazon because, yeah, our average order value is not that high, but the CPC with the Google ads would be like 2-3 times higher than on Amazon. So that's why we kind of made a little pause right now trying to figure it out. And when we were building the site, we made focus on doing as much bundling as we could to increase that AOV. Because if we just sell standalone products, it's not going to make it.
So you have different methods there too, right? So you have at checkout, add this product at a discount, right? So it increases. Yeah. Then you have to have abandoned cart sequences, and you have to have tracking, and tracking's becoming a nightmare. So another big challenge with this is that you've got what do they call it? The cookies are going away, right? So the tracking of customers on your website has become infinitely harder. The iOS 14 update did that originally, and now cookies are going away altogether. And so what used to happen is someone would land on your site, you'd be like, I know exactly who that is. I can target them with ads on Facebook now to bring them back to my site because I know they landed on it, so they have an interest. And because they even had an interest in the first place, the conversion rate for that customer is much higher, right? You lose that visibility. You can't retarget that person as easily, if at all, anymore. And so that additional bump in average conversion is gone, and it makes it much harder to run this business. There are some solutions out there that are trying to solve it. There's some things that are out there. But again, this is all learning curve stuff. This is all stuff you have to understand, learn, and that's a software you have to pay for, or a service you have to pay for, and it adds to your overhead. And if you're not going to be all in and commit to it, it really makes it difficult. So I think a lot of people, I think the point is, let me ask you a very pointed question. And I think that this is important for people who are thinking, oh, I'm going to go Shopify at some point. And maybe it'll have them understand. And you kind of alluded to this. If you you've invested a lot already. If you knew what you knew, if you knew before you started what you know today, would you have spent any money going to Shopify or trying to go to Shopify? Or would you just avoided that lever altogether?
Maybe what we would do is like at this moment, just better invest this money into Amazon, but we will come to it at some point. I mean, we already got it ready. We just need to figure out how to better approach the traffic part. But if we knew, how it hard would it be? Again, maybe just reinvest this money into Amazon.
So that's often the conclusion that I think that's 90% of the time that's the conclusion that sellers take when they think I need to go to Shopify, and then they go through the motions, they spend the money, they spend the effort, and that's time. The most valuable part that you lost of everything is not the thousands of dollars. It's the dozens or hundreds of hours you've invested now into this. Because that's hundreds of hours that you could have spent on a new product, getting better at Amazon, right? An Amazon channel, even Canada, Mexico, Japan, right? Expansion into Walmart. You could have become an expert at Walmart, right? So I think the lesson here for all of us, and I'm glad that you're being so candid with us, that's really important, is that that adds value. People see this journey and they think it's all glorious. It's a hard business, and there's a lot of decisions we make on a regular basis that end up not necessarily being the right decision, right? I spent very early on, probably 2017, 2018, I probably spent $20,000 on Instagram. I got back maybe $20, right? Like there's literally nothing from I was like, oh, these brands, Instagram's the thing. Like we should become we should have Instagram posts, and we should, and have someone that we hire, a channel manager, and we should, we know shopping's coming on Instagram, and it'll drive traffic and it'll make our brand better and stuff. I mean, it was 2018, 2019 probably. And literally nothing from it, right? No one gives a shit. Like, you go to a brand page, you see some pretty images, you're not first of all, they got to find you. No one's searching your hashtags. Like, what are you doing? Like, it doesn't work that way. And so Shopify is the same way. You make a great, beautiful web page, but unless you learn that traffic piece and that conversion piece, and then the average order value side, and those are hundreds of hours that you've spent at that point.
SEO, a lot of times for Shopify.
One of the things that we learned from our CEO coach over the last 3 years is really important for a lot of people to understand is understanding value levers in your business. Now, this is not just one business, but it'll be like you as a whole. You can back out, you can zoom out, and you can think, as a person, I have all these things I can do. For you, it'll be my agency, it'll be my brands, it'll be like maybe potential other businesses. First of all, you back out and you say, what is each of these levers, these value levers, worth to me, right? And then by calculating that, you can say, okay, I've got, here's the upside from revenue. Here's the upside from profit. Here's my confidence level that I'll execute it, right? Multiply those two numbers by your confidence level. So if you got a 50% confidence level, you think you can make 200 grand, that lever is worth 100 grand to you. All right. This is over the next 12 months. Once you do that for all your ideas, all your levers, all the things you can pull, you figure out really quickly which is the best lever that you can put the least amount of effort to really grow, because then you have to say, what does it take for me to pull that lever? What are the resources? How much time for me, my team, people I have to hire, and capital resources am I going to invest to pull that lever? And then you subtract that and you figure out, okay, what's my time worth? What is the time of my team worth? What is the amount of money I'm investing into that? And then you subtract that from what that value, what you thought that confidence level value was, that product was. And then it really puts things in perspective when you look down at it and you say, okay, that lever that I thought was going to be great is not worth the time that I thought it was going to be worth. And I need to move on and pull these other levers. These other levers are going to be so much more valuable. And if you build all of that framework into a long-term vision, 5-10 years down the road, what you're trying to build, what you're trying to do, you're going to be in a much better place, because you're going to pull the right levers. You're going to execute better. You're going to understand what are the leading activities to execute on that lever are. and you're going to be much more focused, and you're not going to be distracted anymore by those other shiny objects, those other opportunities, because that was that's what all of us want to do as entrepreneurs. We want to do it all. We want to pull every lever. We want to start every business. We want to start 4 new brands. We want to be on every channel. We want to do everything. And then what happens is once you go through the exercise of really drawing it all out on a piece of paper and really thinking it through, and then you see a real number attached to it, and you realize it eliminates that need to even want to explore it anymore. You're like, I went through that exercise. I see where that's going to go. It clears it up. And you're like, that's not where I need to go right now. And I don't need that. You don't have that urge anymore. And it allows you to laser focus on what you need to be pulling, what levers you need to be pulling, what you need to be doing. So I think your journey and where you're at right now, you're at a pivotal moment. You've got the resources, you got the time, you're building the team, and you got some really cool things you're doing. Where are you going to go next? You need to work backwards and figure out what are all these levers and opportunities and really make that next step. That's why I asked you, where are you going next? And I'm really curious because if you're not going to think it through logically and with math and put data behind it, the way we are with data, you could get lost really easily. You could pull 10 levers not very well, and you're going to end up not being nearly as effective as if you just pick 2 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we had this conversation with Vlad, like whether is it the right choice, like to do brand and agency? Maybe we should focus only on the brand, or launching other brands instead of also the agency. And yeah, it was a pretty interesting debate, but we're doing both as of now. And I think we can have success with both as many other sellers do. But yeah, maybe we would be more successful with just focusing only on the brand. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a possibility. And then you work it out and you figure it out, right? Like we could have an agency, like between our team and what we do, we could invest in students. We could have a fund. We could do, there's a dozen things we could do where we're at too, right? And so I want to do it all, but the reality is I know I won't do all of it effectively. And there's a few major levers: datadive, continuing seller systems and educating and helping people as a mission and fulfillment for me. Being in a conversation with you and seeing the way that this has changed your life, I can't even express to you how much it means to me, and what like that to me, like that gives my life meaning, right? So, and I see it and I get to talk to you guys. So that's why CampEcom became a thing. I looked at seller systems and I say, it's great. I can go to some events and I can see people, and that's why I love to go to events and throw parties. But when CampEcom allows me to be effectively help you, but spend some time with you too. And so our CEO coach is actually going to be there this year on the executive management side. I hope you make it out, because he's going to do a quarterly planning session the same way I just explained in the business management arm, where if you're doing millions of dollars like you are, and then you want to do an annual quarterly planning session, that whole first day is him running it. You need to do homework before you arrive, and him and his another fellow coach are going to actually drive you through the same process we do for our quarterly planning session, which is really cool. Day 2 is going to be on hiring, scaling your teams. And then on the other side, we have the pre-launch, post-launch. But yeah, I it means a lot, man. I think that you've been a huge advocate for us, because you've seen the impact. And I love your story. I love where you're at. I think you've got the intelligence, the drive, the work ethic to do some incredible things over the next 5 years. And it's true. A lot of people will overestimate what they can do in 2 years, but underestimate what they can do in 10. You'll hear that saying a lot, and it's 100% true. So I'm sure we'll continue to talk, and you're going to do some incredible things over the next 5 to 10 years. And I love to see it, man. So thank you for your time today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brandon. Yeah, for the kind words, for the opportunity. And yeah, I mean, you have a great program, you have a great tool. Like, yeah, I just want to make a quick note. The datadive tool was like probably one of the major factors for our success, since we started using the tool way in the beginning when it was still in Google Sheets. We were like one of the first adopters. And yeah, I actively advocate for it, like on LinkedIn, Facebook. So yeah, just thank you for this opportunity. Like, without you, without your program, I wouldn't be here, or it would take me way more time, way more effort, without all the things you put together, all the people you brought together to build datadive, to build the programs. And yeah, the group by itself, where like you gathered a lot of people who are way smarter than me, and then I
Way
can
smarter than
go.
me too. But I didn't
Yeah,
gather
and
them. They found us, right? Like I think if you're on a journey to get to seek knowledge like you did, right? You
yeah,
eventually found us. I'm not that good at running ads or marketing it. Eventually you find it. So people that are in the group are like you know, like they want to be better and they figured that out. So we are gonna kill it. Dude, I'll see you. Hopefully I'll see you at CampEcom. I'll see you at one of these events. We've got China. We're going to be there for Canton. We'll do a dinner, networking dinner. And then Australia, we've got 3 cities, parties, workshops. We've got Southern Seller Fest. And then that'll bring us into the new year, which is where CampEcom is in Orlando. Hopefully I'll see you guys there. Thank you for your time today, man. Sharing your story, super inspirational. I hope some people learn some things and have a lot of takeaways from it.
yeah. Thank you so much, Brandon, and we'll see you later.
Take care.